Whoa. Before you become an engineer, here are 5 things you need to be thinking about. The first thing is, number 1, location. Number 2, hands-on skills. Number 3, effective communication skills. Number 4, how to stand out from the rest of your peers. And number 5, the engineering standards that you'll be working with. If you know all these 5 things, you'll be much better off knowing if you want to become an engineer. If you're new to the channel, welcome to That College Kid. Here we talk about all college related things and what you could be doing as an engineer to better yourself. Alright, so the first thing I want to talk about is location. Now, location can be highly dependent on what kind of engineer you want to be. So for example, if you're a mechanical engineer versus a computer engineer, the places you work and the type of work you'll be doing will be completely different. Now, let's talk about the first thing. A computer scientist or a programmer or a computer engineer. You're pretty much good. I mean, you're Gucci, man. You can get a job at any company, anywhere in the country, anywhere in the world, actually. What I mean by that is that every company out there, Yahoo, Google, Facebook, JP Morgan, Goldman Sachs, almost any company, any type of company wants and needs a programmer or computer science or a computer engineer. So that means you have the option of working anywhere you want and for whoever you want to. So the second type of engineer I want to talk about is mechanical engineer. Now, mechanical engineers have a lot of options, but this can be highly dependent on what kind of work you want to get into. And remember, when you get into a line of work, it's very hard to transition out of it. So once you get into the aerospace industry, it's very difficult to move to a different type of industry like construction. You might have to start all over again, or you might just be better off moving to a whole new career. So the first thing I want to talk about is mechanical engineer. And for the most part, we're going to talk about construction business. So a lot of the construction business are located in cities, big cities like New York, LA, and Chicago. So if you're not a city person, then think about what kind of job you want to get, because it probably won't be in construction. You'll be doing work in the HVAC, plumbing, fire alarm systems, and general construction or project management. So if that's not the kind of stuff you want to get into, or you just aren't a city person, try doing something else. Now, if you're more of a R&D kind of person and you want to work in the aerospace field, so you want to be working for SpaceX, NASA, or Lockheed Martin, there's a good chance you'll probably have to move. Now, a lot of these companies are located in the middle of nowhere. I mean, it's going to be you and about 50,000 other cows, and that's just how it is. The reason why they're located in the middle of nowhere is because, well, they don't want to be surrounded by people. If you're testing a type of weapon or a rocket, you don't want this thing going off and killing off a bunch of people in the city. So obviously, they're not going to be in the city. Now, next thing I want to talk about down the list are chemical engineers. Now, chemical engineers are probably going to be working in a factory somewhere or a plant. You could be working for a company like DuPont making textiles or plastics, but a lot of these plants are located in a little less popular areas, so if you're a city person, just take that into consideration that you're most likely going to have to be moving for the job, and it's not going to be in a city location. The other kind of job you could be getting is working for a oil company, so you'll be doing a lot of test samples of the oil. However, a lot of times you'll be working on top of an oil rig, and these rigs could be located way out in the middle of the ocean. So you can imagine there's not a whole lot to do out there. Now, the next type of engineer I want to talk about are electrical engineers. Electrical engineers are a little bit better than mechanical or chemical engineers. They have a lot more variety in what they can do. They can work for a big electronic manufacturer as a traditional electrical engineer, or they can work for a computer chip manufacturer, or they can work for Lockheed Martin designing electronic stuff that goes into space, or you can actually work as a programmer for a big bank like JP Morgan or Goldman Sachs. So the last engineer I want to talk about are civil engineers. Now, civil engineers are generally going to be working on big construction projects. So you can be working on dams, highways, or a high-rise building. If you're working on a high-rise building, you'll be working with a lot of mechanical engineers and a lot of architects. And most likely you'll be working in a city. You'll be working in a big city like New York or LA. Now, if you're working for a company like Turner, they do a lot of construction jobs and they're usually located in cities. On the other hand, if you work for a company and they do a lot of highway construction, you can be basically anywhere in the country. You can be all the way in Virginia, you can be all the way in Alabama, or you can be in New York City. You don't really know where you're going to work because the job and the contract that the company has is going to determine where you're going to be working for the next 6 to 9 months. Now, if you're working for a dam, this most likely means you're not going to be building any dams in the U.S. because a lot of the dams have already been built. So that generally means you'll be working outside the U.S. You could be working in India, China, and there's a lot of contracting companies that work in these countries, and they'll build dams and railroads and cities, schools for these types of countries. So you gotta remember, you're probably gonna be moving outside the country for the job, where you don't speak the language and you don't really know the culture. This might be a good opportunity for you to grow and learn, or some people might not like it. It really depends on you. Now, the next part is hands-on skills. Now, not a lot of people know this, but employers don't want to see someone with 4.0 GPA and no practical skills. This means they would rather take someone with 3.5 GPA and with hands-on skills than someone with 4.0. So if you're a mechanical engineer, you should start doing things like working on your car. If you can show that you've done oil changes, changed your brakes, and understand what you're doing on top of the course you're taking, it gives you a leg up on the rest of the mechanical engineers. Now, I've seen a lot of mechanical engineers out there, and they don't have a lot of hands-on skills. And when it comes to the job, a lot of employers want this. The reason why they want people with hands-on skills is because if you're designing something and you don't know how it gets put together or used, then how can you design it effectively? Next thing is that if you're a programmer, they want to see that you can actually do some of your skills. They want to see you design an app or a website. They want to see that you can take what you learned in college and apply it to a real life problem and solve it. And that's what employees are really paying you for. They want to see that you can solve a problem. Alright, so next thing I want to talk about is effective communication skills. Now, everybody knows that engineers are a bunch of cave dwellers. We just never go outside and see the sun. The problem is, you want to start developing some of your effective communication skills. Now, how can you do this? You can do this by going to your local Toastmasters club, where you can practice public speaking skills. You can join a drama club if there's a drama club at your school. Anywhere, anything you can join where you get to practice just talking to people and public speaking skills. I also highly recommend going to your career center and trying some interviewing skills. You want to start doing some mock interviews, and this is going to help you when you do get to the interview to practice your interviewing skills. Alright, so next thing I want to talk about are engineering standards. There are a lot of engineering standards. I mean, there's a standard for everything. In fact, if you want to go to sleep at night and you're having trouble, read one of these standards. They'll put you to sleep. Now, not every part of the job is going to be super exciting. So you gotta realize that you'll be working these standards and they're pretty drying to read. On the other hand, if you know about your standards and the standards that the industry you want to get into works with, then you have a huge leg up on the other candidates. So if you're about to go for an interview and you know the standards and you can talk to them, then that puts you in a much higher standing than the rest of the candidates. So for example, if you're working for a construction job and you want to work in the HVAC industry, they use the ASHRAE standard a lot. In the firefighting or plumbing industry, they use NFPA 70 or NFPA 72. And for aerospace industry, they use hundreds of different standards. But some of the standards are ASCM for general testing of materials, or the SAE standards that tells you how to build an aircraft, what kind of rivets to use. There's so many standards. So if you can learn about your standards or do some research on them before the job interview, It's going to make you stand out. The last thing I want to talk about is how you can stand out from the rest of your peers. And you gotta start thinking about doing this in your freshman year. So if you're a freshman or a sophomore, you want to start looking for clubs that are related to your major. So if you're a mechanical engineer, start thinking about joining the American Society of Mechanical Engineers. Or if you're a civil engineer, start looking at joining the American Society of Civil Engineers. A lot of these clubs participate in competitions, and these competitions where you can make airplanes or build canoes. What this does is it gives you a lot of hands-on experience on top of your regular college experience. Now if you're a programmer, you might want to consider taking one of those boot camps they have out there. They're really expensive. They're around $500 for the summer boot camp, but it sets you apart because you're willing to put the extra time and money into developing yourself, and when an employer sees that, they know that you're way ahead of the game. On top of that, you'll meet a lot of people in these boot camps, and you might end up getting a job out of the boot camp. So you want to start building up your resume now, so that when you have that experience, you can apply for the internship your junior year, which will help you get the job your senior year. So, in summary, the 5 things that you need to know are location, hands-on skills, effective communication skills, engineering standards, and how to stand out from the rest of your peers. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you think this video was helpful, share it with your friends. As always, don't forget to rate, comment, and subscribe. If you have any extra tips and tricks that you want to help out the community here, don't forget to leave a comment. As always, keep on learning.